Hi, my name is Sam and I'm a teacher at BKLYN CLAY. I usually teach wheel classes, but today I will talk to you about how to make a slab textured pot. We always can create a texture on a slab by imprinting it with various objects. However, the way I do it involves making coils first and then assembling them in different ways. So let's take a look at my tools first. So I have a drywall. It's great because it's a non-sticky surface and it's smooth. There are different alternatives to it, but this is by far my favorite surface to work on. I have a bending wheel if I want to create a symmetrical form with my slabs. I need a little bit of water. I have a blade, even though you can sort of work without one. There is a wire to take the cup off after you finish working with it and making it. There is a serrated rib for easy slip and scoring processes. And then there is a smooth rib if I want to create a smooth surface. So this is the yellow one, so it's pretty soft, but there are different ways to approach it. This is one of the tools I use to create texture. And really it can be just about anything. Anything that has texture on it you can use. This is just something I use. I have a regular brush to apply slip or water to connect my sides of the walls. And I have a regular pin tool right here. This is a string with some loose hair in it. I like to use it to decide how long I need my slab to be. So if I want my cup to be a diameter of this line, I can lay it out using a string approximately. It doesn't have to be perfect. And that way I know how long my slab needs to be and whether I have enough surface here to build it that width, right? So if I want to make a really wide cylinder, I will need a larger surface area to make my slab on. I will show you some examples of the slabs that I'm talking about. This is a slab that has consistent texture on both sides. This allows me to create a slab that is diagonal and the other side is nice and smooth. This is a slab with a very particular texture, kind of like how it comes around scallop on the top, and the back is nice and smooth. So if you have a cylindrical sort of mug shape, you have a very heavy texture on the outside, and the inside has a texture, but it's all closed in, which is quite hard to get with a regular slab. This is a similar principle, but is using my fingers as opposed to any particular tool. It looks a little bit like a shell, but then the inside is still nice and smooth. Obviously you can have straight lines and perpendicular to the floor lines as well as diagonal lines in this particular case. So let's get to it. You don't really need any of these tools. You can just use your hands. As long as you have a non-sticky surface and some water, you can make it. I have created coils using an extruder just because it's going to speed up the process. However, if you don't want to use an extruder, or if you don't have an access to one, you can always pinch some clay, roll it into a nice thick sausage in your hands, pinch it off, roll it more. You can roll it either straight up or put it flat and roll it with your palm. Many people find that their coils become flat when they roll with their hand. If that's your problem, use your whole palm instead of just a short part of it. I guess use your palm and your fingers. So you can achieve a similar result as an extruded coil. However, this is going to take you a little more time. Whichever way you choose to make your coils, make sure you put them on a wear board so they can stay nice and flat, and that you have plastic to cover them up, because as you work, these guys will dry out fairly quickly. So let's get to the slab making. First, I will take number of coils and I will lay them flat at the length of my slab that I'm trying to create. It's helpful to have a little extra space unless you don't really care how wide your pot is in the end of the day. So I'm just going to take them one by one or two by two and lay them flat on my drywall. Keep your hands nice and dry. At this point, there is no need for moisture. So I'm going to pinch off all this excess clay because this way it's going to attach itself to the surface I'm working on. And I guess it will also pinch off the extra clay. If I pinch it with my thumb, I'm also connecting the coils slightly. That way they're not as likely to crawl away from one another. Take all of your excess clay and make a little ball of clay and toss it back into your plastic so you don't have to re-wedge all of this or toss it into the reclaim. Especially if you're choosing to work from home on this stuff, keep your area clean. There's no need to create any sort of dust, and everything could be very nicely organized. So now that we have this flat layer of coils, we should connect them in one way or another. We can either smooth them out entirely or we can create texture. Whichever one you choose to do, you still need to start by smoothing out the whole surface area. And you don't want to go one way or another, across or the long way. You want to kind of do a little bit of both. So I like to just press on it. That way, as a coil expands, sort of pushes itself into the coil next to it, and it keeps it nice and consistent. You can smooth it around with your finger. And once you have some kind of connection, take a rib and just slide across the slab you're creating. If this is your surface, this is your inside of your pot, so the outside just have parallel lines of coils that is nice and flat, then I will definitely take some time making this very, very smooth. You can also go perpendicular to the direction of the coil, and that will create a stronger bond between the coils, so as you handle your slab, your coils don't split up. Now we are going to preemptively look underneath to see what we might be looking at. So if you take your nice little rib and slide it under the slab, you will have easy time picking it up. So right now we can see that what we have is a slab that has very consistent, very even lines, that is smooth on the other end, and the thickness of the slab itself is exact. So this is something we can definitely look forward to. And this is one of the ways we can start working with the piece. However, to limit the length of this video, I'm going to put it back down and create the texture on this side of the slab, so that way I can flip it inside out, have this nice straight line on the inside of my pot, and make something new. So the way I'm going to make this type of slab that has a heavy texture on the outside and lean, sleek, straight lines on the inside is by first creating the slab that I've just made. There you can see the other side on if you pick it off. And by using this tool, which again could be any texture tool, anything that has a texture on it, you can use. I like to make sure that my tool is always clean and dry. Whenever you're creating a texture, start closer to your body. I often start from the top and it never works. I need to start down here. So I'm going to lightly push and lift off. Push and lift off. And I'm just going one after another. Once I feel that my tool is becoming a little dirty, covered in clay, tacky, I will stop, I'll wash it, and I'll dry it up again. And right back to it. There are so many textures out there that if you start looking for them, you'll really find the one that speaks to you. There is an Australian potter who makes texture by imprinting her screen from the house she was growing up. So when her family sold the house, she went to the house, she made a resin mold of the glass surface, and she's been using that texture ever since for all of her production. Find the texture that speaks to you and, go for it. One thing I find with this particular texture that works nicely on porcelain at cone 10, which basically means that when it's thin enough, it's going to be translucent, is that this area where I'm pinching in the most and then lifting off is the area that you can see through with the thin porcelain coils. Remember that nothing needs to be perfect. Perfection is an enemy of anything being done. Let's go extra slowly. Push in and lift off. Push in and lift off. So now we've successfully made a slab that is heavily textured on one side and has a nice straight line texture on the other side. So remember to use your rib to pick the slab off. If you're gonna try to pinch it off here from any of these sides, you're very likely to rip it off. So this is our inside lines and here's the outside. We have a slab with a heavy texture on the outside and the lean, sleek lines on the inside. You can also go wild and put this on the outside and have a crazy white texture on the inside. I don't know why you would do that, but nobody's stopping you. So, this is this slab. I don't remember if I told you that. To create this, instead of using a tool, use your finger. And I'm going to briefly show it, but that way I don't have to remake another cup. So I will take the coil and I'll just make it nice and short. I pinch it on, I pinch it on the side and I smoosh them together. I use the rib, and now, instead of using my tool, I'll use this magic tool that is my finger. And this is now on you to have your solid fingering technique. And then you just cut off the edges, pick it up using the rib, and here's your little texture with the very smooth lines on the inside. So now we're going to take our slab and turn it into a cup. For that, we will need a chunk of clay to put straight on our bending wheel that spins very smoothly. I'll pinch away from my wedged piece of clay and I will make a ball of clay. I'll place it in the center and then just hit it all around. Doesn't have to be perfect, but needs to be fairly leveled. And the best way to do it is just to have your hand going up and down while the wheel is spinning. Then I'm going to take my pen tool and I'm going to set it straight. Well, first I'm going to draw a line, and with each rotation I'm just going to gradually go in till my wheel stops. Right, cut and slide under to get rid of this noodle of clay. This we're going to put back into plastic to keep it nice and wet. So this is the base of our pot. We want this line to be beveled in, from outside in, so that when the pot sits on top of it, it has a nice connecting point. I will use my serrated rib. I can also do it with my pen tool, but that seems painful. I will use a serrated rib, tilt it about 45 degrees, and spin the wheel. Now I have these lines all across. I'll pick off the big chunks of loose clay, but I'm not going to go mental on it with all the tiny little pieces. I'll take my lovely brush, dunk it in water, and as I spin my wheel, just gonna add some moisture to my clay. So this is my base. If I make it thick enough, I can also trim it on an actual wheel so that my texture pot has a foot ring inside created on an actual throwing wheel. So that's something you can definitely consider. Now I need to figure out how long I need my slab to be, because it might be a little too long. So I'm going to use a string, place it on the edge, and go all around to get an approximate length of the slab I need. Right, so as you can see, I'm overshooting a little bit somewhere here. So I'm going to just mark it right here, take my string off so it doesn't get mixed up with the rest of the clay, and I'm going to cut it onto an angle to create a beveled edge that can easily connect, creating even thickness as it overlaps. So as this one is facing this way, this side is also going to follow the same line for them to match exactly. So I'm going to go right here, cut it in, and take this piece out. So if we take these two pieces, we can see that they will match exactly one over another, creating an even slab without extra thickness on the connecting point. And also it's pretty seamless connection. However, we definitely want to slip and score this area before we take it off the wear board. This can go back in there. Use a serrated rib to slip and score. Make sure to go perpendicular to the lines of the slab so that it doesn't accidentally split. And add water or slip. If you have slip is great. But if you're working with a fairly wet clay, a bit of water will do the trick. Flip it softly over. Create serration on the other side. Add a little bit of water. Sometimes with a fairly wet clay you can get away without adding water or serrating, but that is up to you to take that chance. And now, the last but not least, we need a little bit of serration on this side to connect to the base. So serrate, serrate, serrate. I don't want to push at the top of my slab, so not to smoosh my texture. My hand is light because this guy is fantastic at creating serrations without applying a lot of pressure. Pick it up with your dry, soft hands and place it over the base of your pot. So now at the base, I'm going to softly connect them, one hand on the inside and a very soft, dry, large surface area of my palm on the outside. Push them in together. I don't have to squish it or smush it. I just want to have them touch close enough that they really come in tightly together. Now I'm going to take my thumbnail and spin the wheel as I smush the wall to the base of the pot. It helps if your thumb is wet. So you softly come in so that the connecting point is in place. I can also use my pin tool to clean up this edge to minimize the amount of cleanup I need to do afterwards. I definitely want to smooth this line, and there are many tools available for it, but your nice cheap little plastic brush will do just as fine. So I'm going to use this round tip of the brush to softly push in to smooth out the connecting line. This doesn't serve functional purpose, like it's not functional connection because the pot is already connected together. This is just to make things a little tidier and cleaner on the inside. Once this is done, you can go ahead, take your wire tool, stretch it between your thumbs and wire your pot off the bat. Clean your wire, pick up your pot with your dry hands without squishing it, and rest it to dry. Thank you for watching. This is how you make a textured pot with texture on the outside and on the inside. For more, subscribe to our videos, and thank you for joining us today.